So it's been a constant question of whether or not video games in of itself is or can be classified as art. In which, by the way, in the definition, or at least the Merriam-Webster definition, it's skill acquired by experience, study, or observation, or the conscious use of skill and creative imagination, especially in the production of aesthetic objects. And as years have gone by, we have called many things arts, where it comes down to sculpture, painting, drawing, writing, music, TV, when it comes down to movies or television. And in recent years, it's been in the common question of whether or not games have been or can be classified as art. Though considering, the amount of creativity that takes place in trying to create a video game, I think it's fair to say it classifies as such. Now, when it comes down to it, with everything that goes on, people still want to try to denounce art or video games classifying as said art. And also, in some sense, trying to push their own agenda, or if anything, their own aesthetic to another person's form of art or image in terms of video games. What do I mean by this? I know certain people would probably ask. Now, looking at certain situations, especially when it comes down to video games are scrutinized a lot. Take, the false criticisms of people like Anita Sarkeesian, for that matter, and yes, I am going to mention her as an example, who critically bashes video games and tries to make them or claim them to be a sense of male privilege zone area for guys that people can express their sexism towards women, when really that is not the case. Again, when it comes down to it, art in of itself is subjective. Video games created by a variety of different people who have a creative design on what a video game looks like, the characters as well as the story, in of itself, well, is an act of art. So here's the bigger question when it comes down to everything. Isn't art supposed to be suggestive? And to give a kind of good example, and I'll try to link a few videos that talk about this as well, especially when it comes down to designs of characters, and with people kind of in a sense trying to cause a firestorm to try to shame developers to do something different when it comes to characters that they themselves have designed. It's ridiculous in a huge degree, especially when it comes to, again, people trying to force their own opinions and ethics on, the person creating the product. In fact, a perfect example would have to be two characters from Spyro's remaster, or the Spyro Trilogy remaster. For those who don't remember, Spyro, who, by the way, is a classic character in, the PS1 era, got a remaster for his first 3 games. And a variety of different people, for whatever reason, were not happy with the redesigns for Sheila the Kangaroo and Laura the Fawn, and claimed that these people, or these characters, were over-sexualized.
You serious?
Heck, some people made the argument that apparently the original design for Sheila was way better than the redesign, which, honestly, I'm going to be perfectly honest, and forgive me for those who made that comment, watch this video. Are you a fucking moron? Because in any case, especially when it comes down to, again, adding more detail and more characteristics to the characters, giving more creative, I guess, if anything, more characteristics to the character, or if anything, make them more detailed, for that matter. Having just a regular plain kangaroo was slightly boring in the original, for those who don't remember Sheila in the original game. But having her have a shirt, hair, is apparently sexualizing the character. For further proof, here's the original design for the character, and here's the redesign. And I gotta say, especially when it comes down to, the technology now. And by the way, spoilers for those who don't know, Laura the Fawn, as well as Sheila the Kangaroo in this game, or at least this game series, were not the only ones that got redesigned for the remaster. The variety of different dragons that you rescue in the first game also got redesigns, giving them clothes, personalities, as well as different looks and how they behave, and especially with how they behave. Allowing the creators of the game to basically just express themselves and create the characters that they want to create, which is basically the point of creating video games, creating the characters, the story, and the world that they want to create and others to experience. And unfortunately, not only succumbing to certain views of particular groups. Because at this point, especially when it comes to particular groups becoming offended by such trivial things, especially when it comes down to video games, things that aren't real, and trying to change people or change how people think and how they are creatively, I'm sorry, but isn't that a form of censorship? By the way, speaking of censorship, I'm going to leave you a link in the description down below for one of Game Theory's videos, which is titled Game Theory, Are Smite's Goddesses Too Sexy? And they talk about the censorship of one of the Hindu gods that are present in the Smite game, Kali. And to some extent, if you were to look up the ancient art for Kali, especially since at this point the Hindu community was claiming that, or if anything, claiming that the developers of Smite were pornifying the goddess Kali, you have to realize that by typing in the ancient art for that particular goddess, she wears way less than what she wore originally when it comes down to her representation in the game. Now, I'm sure some people are probably thinking that I'm sexist for saying that, but literally, if you look up the ancient art for Kali, you'll see my point. But in the end, with some of the backlash and possible censorship, or actually, if anything, it wasn't possible, it was censorship, the developers of Smite had to redesign her character to be more appropriate or appease the Hindu community. Though I think this is more to kind of share appreciation for the mythology, or if anything, the divine entity for Kali and the other divine entities that are represented in their game. But I guess, if anything, it's still, art. Regardless of what the character was wearing, art is art, and art is subjective. If people create a character a certain way or draw a character a certain way, that's their choice. And regardless of whether it's over-sexualized or not, art is, again, art. And I hate to be that guy. And I know, some people, again, will claim me to be sexist because, let's face it, I'm a straight white man. And at this point, nobody wants to take the word of a straight white man.
Golf clap? Golf clap.
So, here's my bottom line, or at least my final statement on this whole situation. Or at least when it comes to anything involving gaming being art, or art being subjective. Because at this point, it seems like, especially when it comes down to video games, 90, or at least not 90% of the time, but a variety of different games are censored because certain people get their feelings hurt about either how the characters are portrayed, what they look like, etc. People should be allowed to create what they want to create, whether it be, again, for video games, music, books, TV or movie, whatever. And we shouldn't try to force ideals onto the people that are creating the art in the first place, as well as trying to censor people, especially with their creativity, or trying to stample their creativity because they don't agree with certain ethics that you may agree with. But, anywho, I think I have nothing else I need to say. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care. Peace.
2, 3, 5.